Welcome to another Friday Night Restoration. This time it's going to be something a little bit different, and I'll tell you right up front, I make no promises that I will actually be able to get this to work tonight, but I think it will be an interesting project nonetheless. What this is an 8-inch Motorola 9T1 set, I think. I haven't actually opened the box yet. I don't work on other people's sets too often because I've got plenty of my own to keep me busy, but I did work out a deal with the owner of this set, and he shipped this to me from Canada, actually via Montana, to save on shipping. I had asked him to just send me the chassis, but I believe he just stuck the entire set in the box, so I really hope it did not get damaged, and I really hope it doesn't get damaged when I ship it back to him, because pretty much every Bakelite cabinet I've had shipped to me has suffered some damage. But we'll keep our fingers crossed. It does seem to be fairly well packed, and the box looks to be in good shape. I don't see any indications it's been abused, drop kicked, anything like that. So the story behind this set is, supposedly it's been fully restored. It was working for some period of time, and then the screen went blank, but it still has sound. So it could be a number of things. It could be the picture tube, could be something to do with the power supply, the high voltage generator, the brightness contrast circuit, the video amp. We'll see. So first thing, let's get this box open and see what's inside. Looks like they used an oversized box and they kind of bent it down. Well, hey, I'll give them some credit. They did put a box in the box with foam peanuts in between. And here's the set itself, and some bubble wrap and more foam. Okay, it looks like this set did arrive undamaged. I put the set on its side so I could get the screws out and pull the chassis when I noticed that the cabinet has suffered some odd damage on the side. Looks like some type of fluid ran down and then pooled up around here, and really did a number on the Bakelite, which is normally pretty impervious to most liquids, but this not only discolored it, but it made the surface all rough too. But it is unbroken. Well, a little scuff there, so not entirely unbroken, but as these sets go, I suppose it's in decent cosmetic condition. So, let's see, I got all the screws out, so the chassis should slide out once I disconnect the speaker and the picture tube. Looks like the set's owner missed a few tubes when he was pulling them out for shipping. Got 25L6 here. There'll be a 1B3 rectifier inside here, and I think it's a 12SN7, or yeah, it's 12SN7, I'm pretty sure. This cap should be put down a little bit more securely, just to keep you from getting shocked. You got the full AC line potential across this cap. And I was wrong about the ballast, I'm happy to say. It actually has been rebuilt. There are, well, there are power resistors inside there. 4 of them to be specific. No, look under here. I don't know what that was. A bit of metal just fall. Little spring. Not entirely sure what this goes to. Might be for the hinged back. At any rate, I'm happy to say the set has been recapped. That's what I was hoping to see. And it doesn't look like they did too bad of a job. We've got all the nice ASC high voltage caps down in here. This one looks a little bit bigger than the others. 0.01. I don't think that's right. I think there should be 3.0047s and 2.001s. This, I believe, is the main filter on the high voltage, so it's probably okay, but I'm pretty sure it's not what was in there originally. As for the rest, yeah, decent quality caps. I have no complaints about this. Nice metal oxide power resistors, a few carbon film resistors here and there. Looks like this is one of the ballast resistors, the 200 ohm resistor, and the others were stuffed inside. So no smoking gun as to what might be wrong with it. I'm pretty sure he said it had sound. Now if it's got sound, there must be power going to the set. And the tuner's working right. So one culprit could be the 25L6 that drives the high voltage transformer could be bad, or the 1B3 rectifier could be burned out. So I'll check those two first. I gotta take out all these quarter nut screws all around the periphery to get this cover open. Okay, I got all the screws out, so let's see what's under this cover. Wow, that looks like it's the original Motorola high voltage rectifier. In fact, I'm sure it is, because newer tubes are shorter. And this is Motorola branded, and it still has the paper on here of where this feedback coil goes. So I bet this has never been touched. Hopefully this coil is good. But yeah, boy, I'm even more suspicious of this tube now, because it's got to be one very old tube. Alright, so now I got this all opened up and I've inspected it. First thing I want to do is check all the tubes and the picture tube, because the set has been recapped. It was working. One obvious thing that can go out is the tubes. And I noticed on some of these tubes that they've definitely seen some use. You can see little spots above the two sections here. Yeah, 12SN7. It's not a bad thing. It's just as these get used, material gets deposited above the plates there. Okay, first let's test the picture tube. The owner of the set thought this might be the problem, but I don't think so. He said he still had sound, which means the tubes are lighting up, and this set has a series wired filament string, so the picture tube has to have a good filament, otherwise none of the tubes would be lighting up. If you've got a good filament in a picture tube, you can usually get at least a dim picture out of it. So that's why I think it's still good. Let's find out. Got my Suncor CR70 as usual. Let's get the filament up to 6.3. And yes, I can see it glowing. It's a little dim with the shield in place, but there is a glow in there. Alright, so check for shorts. Let this warm up for a few seconds. Okay, it's been about 5 minutes. Okay, I wait. Okay, I waited a couple minutes, Now I can get the cutoff to be inside that black box there on the meter, and we've got really good emissions and a really good life test. One thing I noticed that might be anything to be a bit concerned is that the G1 short is dipping into the bad range. HK short's really good, but it's not like way over into the bad range. So let's see if I tap this tube if it changes. Now this does have a remove G1 short function on it. But before I do that, I'm a little leery of potentially damaging somebody else's set, so I'm going to pull out another set that I've got that has the same picture tube in it and hook it up and see how it checks out. Okay, I pulled out a Motorola 9L1. That's a sister set to the 9T1. I picked this up a few months ago, and I know it has a good picture tube. So when I test this one, when you check for shorts, both heater cathode or G1, well over into the good range. That other picture tube was slightly into the bad range. And cutoff, it's much more responsive when you rotate the cutoff control. And the emissions on this I know are very good. So what I'm going to try doing is first test all the tubes in that chassis, and then hook it up to this picture tube, which I know is good because I have powered it up before and it produces a nice clear picture. And let's see if that works. And if that does work, I'll try hooking this chassis back up to the picture tube that it came with. And if it's producing no picture, well, we'll take it from there. I'm going to use my Hickok Cardmatic tube tester to check all the tubes. First up, I'm going to do the 1B3. I have contacted the seller about what I've discovered so far on the set, and he told me to go ahead and do whatever I thought was appropriate, including trying to remove short function on my Suncor if needed. But I'll stick with the current plan, which is to try all the tubes and then use a known good picture tube. Check for gas first. No gas. Quality. It's in the green, and if you look on the card it says OK over 40. High voltage rectifiers can be kind of weird when you test them because they have pretty high internal resistance, I think. Well, it's certainly well over 40, so I'll call that good. And next up, try the 25L6. I think there's a couple of these in the set. One drives the horizontal, or rather one drives the high voltage coil, and one drives the speaker. No gas. That's a nice strong tube. Alright. I'll keep going and check all the tubes, and we'll see how things go from there. So far the tubes have been testing pretty good until I ran into another 25L6. This one's got some issues. First off, we've got some secondary emission. What that means is when you don't have any of these buttons depressed, the needle is not on 0. It's not into bad yet. It's this leakage up here. If it goes out of the green into the red, it's bad. But the bigger issue is these lights that are lighting up. Those are the short lights. So we got a pretty solid short on the suppressor, and the cathode and plate are also flickering. You can try tapping the tube, sometimes it clears up some junk, but not in this case, so I'm definitely going to replace that tube. I finished testing all the tubes and found a total of 3 that were weak or bad. So I replaced those with some good ones, and I've repopulated all the tube sockets. And now I want to try powering it up for the first time. But I don't want to risk damaging a picture tube, so what I'm doing is I put in a dummy load here to simulate the filament of the picture tube. I have 2 resistors in parallel to total about 10 ohms, and it's just wired into the 2 filament pins here. And I've hooked up a speaker, so if all goes well, we should be able to hear some sound over our local low power VHF channel number 6. And for those of you tired of the light jazz in so many of my videos, they have changed format, and they're now underground alternative rock. So get ready for that, assuming this works. I'm going to use a 75 watt bulb, or sorry, 150 watt bulb in series, just in case there's any problem in the set. And I'm going to use an isolation transformer, because this is a transformerless set, and that will offer some protection from a shock hazard. Alright, I'm going to cut down the lighting a bit and turn this thing on. Okay, that's better. It will help me see the 2 filaments light up, assuming they do light up. So let's see. The light bulb lit up bright, as I figured it would. It should dim down as the tubes start conducting. Yeah, I can see a glimmer of light in some of the tubes. Turn off the lights here. Yeah, the tubes are all lighting up. Let's see. Turn the volume up. Don't hear any hum or buzz out of the speaker though. Oh, there we go. Just took a while to warm up. And I hear. Alright, there's our underground alternative rock. Sounds like the Beastie Boys. I don't have an antenna hooked up, so. Alright, so that does seem to work so far. Alright, it's a good sign. It's a very good sign. So we know that all the tubes are getting filament juice, so the ballast must be okay, and we're receiving sound on channel 6, so the tuner is okay, and all the IF stages are okay. But what we still don't know is if there's any high voltage, and of course without a picture tube hooked up, we don't know if all the signals going to that socket are correct. So next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to let this play for a while and sit here to make sure that there aren't any more issues, and then I'm going to pull out a picture tube that I know is good and try hooking it up. I just happen to have a good 7JP4 handy. It's 1 inch smaller in diameter than the 8BP4 that goes with this set, but electrically they're identical. So, assuming the set's working properly, we should get an image. Okay, we got sound, and yeah, It's a glimmering of an image there. Very faint though. Try adjusting some of the controls on the back. I think this is brightness. Yeah, there we go. Doesn't look like much. Let's focus. Let's see. Adjusting the horizontal and vertical hold. That's the vertical size, I think. Everything would be centering. Yeah, that's centering. There we go. Try the contrast here. It's better, we're getting there. Fine tuning. Try the brightness again. There we go. Alright. Here's a closer look at the image I'm getting on this picture tube. It's pretty good. With a little bit of tweaking, I think I can get even sharper, but I'll save that until we get the real picture tube working, which is the next challenge. So I am going to unmount this picture tube, bring the cabinet into my workshop and up on the workbench, and see if I can manage to leave the picture tube still mounted in the cabinet and hook it up to this chassis while the chassis is out of the cabinet. I was able to get the cabinet and the chassis facing back to back, twist around the socket and plug it into the CRT. So let's give this a try. Okay, we've got sound. Now, what about a picture? Huh. We have a picture. Well, what do you know? I guess those bad tubes were the problem after all. So even though the set was showing, well, it wasn't really a strong short. It wasn't well into the red, if you recall. It was kind of borderline short. Still kind of makes me want to try to remove this short though. But again, it's not my set, although the owner did give me permission to do whatever was necessary. It does seem to be working alright. So I don't want to risk damaging this rather rare picture tube. I've had the set playing for a couple hours with no problem, so I'm going to move on to some cosmetic issues. First up, I'm going to use a little Novus number 2 and see if I can revive this Bakelite a little bit. This is working quite well so far. Look how dirty this rag is from all the material I've buffed out. It's still a little rough from whatever that substance is that got on the cabinet, but sure is a lot better than it was before I started. Here are those nasty crumbly feet it came with. I dug up some vintage feet from an old piece of test equipment that I think will do quite nicely, so I'm going to put those on. Alright, I got the new feet on. I pretty much finished cleaning up the cabinet and I cleaned off the glass, so let's give it one final look. I've got this wired into my cable system through a 75 to 300 ohm adapter on the back.
importance of that letter. The danger of leaving such evidence. Everyone, that is, except for one man.
I hope you guys enjoyed this look at restoring a Motorola 9T1. Even though it had already been restored by somebody else. It was still a fun little project, I think.
That's just the booze talking.
So, we're going to have a live taping of Film Spotting.
It's official now, you realize.
Yeah.